Hi, Max Brantley of the Arkansas Times on Monday, April the 3rd, and do I have good news for you today? The legislature has gone home. Reason to cheer as always. They recess this morning. They'll come back May the 1st merely to adjourn sine die as long as they don't have any more mischief to make up on that day, let's hope. You could think of the famous words about sound and fury signifying nothing, or at least not much. We're going to have laws necessary to operate a couple more years. They certainly restricted people's human rights more this session, women's rights, particularly an extremely long list of bills to impinge on women's medical rights. But we didn't do anything about a highway construction plan. The last day saw yet another failure to capture internet sales taxes, which are bleeding local taxing units dry as internet commerce is putting local retailers out of business. The legislature, which gets paid by local retailers, by the way, doesn't seem to recognize the irony of letting internet people get a free ride on Arkansas purchasers. I think we'll be back for some special sessions before we're over with. Elsewhere, still more national and international headlines for the 8 executions that are scheduled to begin soon in Arkansas this month. A conveyor belt of death, one news outlet called it today. An interesting story about the impact on news reporters who've had to witness some of the botched executions. There are a lot of people, the people who do the executions, the condemned people, the families of people whose crimes are tied up with these deaths. Everybody pays some price. Interesting story in the Columbia Journalism Review today. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette's editor says that the last triple-header execution in Arkansas was treated as a minor news story by the then editor. They intend to do a better job this time around. Today, the Little Rock School District released proposals they've received to use 2 schools that are going to be closed next year because of budget cuts, the Franklin School and the Woodruff Preschool Center. A couple of interesting ideas. 2 developers, both legitimate developers it would seem, have proposed to turn the Woodruff School into multifamily housing, one with a swimming pool for the community and a community room. There's also a proposal at Franklin School for a community health center, also to have another outlet of the Watershed Community Service Agency. Speaking of the schools, State Senator Joyce Elliott of Little Rock, who represents a big part of the Little Rock School District and a huge part of it where a lot of its children, most of them black and poor, come from, says she's against the May 9th special election to continue for 14 years, 12.4 mills of construction mills to pay for school improvements. She says taxation without representation, which is the situation in the district now, is tyranny. She simply can't vote for tyranny. This is a problem with a lot of voters in the district who can traditionally been school tax supporters, as Senator Joyce Elliott certainly has been. The question is whether anything can change between now and May 9th that will restore trust in State Education Commissioner Johnny Key, who's running the district now and who's been a major advocate for things that have been damaging to the district, particularly the expansion of charter schools. Well, one thing could happen. The State Board of Education meets next month. I've advocated for some time now that they send a signal that they're going to return the Little Rock School District to local control. A promise of school board elections in the future might do something for some of those people who are not necessarily confident about letting Johnny Key have sole control, whether they'd like to see the money spent by people they elect. We shall see. More to come on that. In case you haven't heard, somebody in Arkansas last week bought a lottery ticket at a Valero station in Stuttgart that's worth $107 million in the Mega Million game. As of this recording, that person has not come forward to claim his prize. They have 180 days. I've run the math on it, and it looks like the state and federal tax people will get about $50 million of the money. I guess you can probably still get by on $57 million. We learned over the weekend that bad news for Illinois is good news for Arkansas. Caterpillar is closing a 500-person plant in Aurora, Illinois, but 150 jobs are going to move to the North Little Rock facility where they're going to make a type of road grader. Interesting story in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette over the weekend. Shows our legislature at work. Jason Rapert, a favorite senator of ours, manages to get almost $500,000 in a grant, another $500,000 loan from his former Senate colleague, Fireball Bruce Holland, to help improve the levees in Jason Rapert's neighborhood and that floods some of the land around him and his farm. You know, most people have to pay taxes to pay for their levees, but here Jason Rapert's got what's apparently an unprecedented state grant to help his own little levee district. Now, when poor people get a little money from the state, they call it welfare. I'll leave it to you whether this is welfare or maybe something even worse than that. And finally, here's some good news about Donald Trump. Not about Donald Trump, bad news about him keeps piling up. More Russian connections and more crazy tweeting from him trying to turn attention to Hillary Clinton, like who's she anyway? The news is this, Arkansas Public Service Commission Chairman Ted Thomas gave a widely lauded speech at a gathering of utility regulators. He's a former Republican legislator, Republican political consultant, appointee of both Mike Huckabee and Asa Hutchinson. No rhino, in other words, as in Republican name only. He's the real thing. But Ted Thomas said for publication that he believes man and carbon dioxide emissions may have a role in climate change on this planet of ours, and he thinks that regulators need to be sensitive to this and that there's too much emphasis from the right side of the political spectrum on burning coal. Imagine that, an honest man. We've found one in the Republican Party. Who knew? Keep resisting. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.